Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Techniche Tips. If y'all in the building, let me know. Put it in the comment section below. I got none other than OTTO in the building, and I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but it just came out that way. Listen, y'all, I am excited to have y'all with us. This is gonna be a fun time as we have, as I always say, another one for you. But go ahead, if you are brand new to this conversation, if you're brand new to what we do here, go ahead and put it in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. As always, we are excited to have you with us. So definitely let us know where you're tuning in from. Definitely let us know. I do got you got also keeping it real right here. When you come in, don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, and subscribe. The Q&A portion of the live will be exclusive on YouTube. Have your questions ready to go. That's so true. That's so true. Thank you so much, OTTO Tech Coach Ralph. Good morning, family. Good morning, family. He's a OTTO says my Key Club fam is about to drop bombs. She is dope. She is dope. So you already know what's coming down the line. We got Orlando, Florida in the building. Orlando, Florida. Also, LinkedIn family, just so y'all know, sometimes for whatever reason, your comments don't come over to my streaming platform. So if I miss your comments, forgive me first and foremost, but come over to the YouTube side. It's nice on this side, youtube.com/at Techniche Tips is at the bottom there scrolling. So definitely, if you are available, do so, and love to see you on this side. Take Coach Ralph says he's coming in from Florida. Awesome. So glad that you're tuning in from down south there. And we got Mitch in the building. He said, hey, I'm new here. Hello, everyone. That's so funny. New here is not really the term I would describe for Mitch. Mitch is definitely a staple of the show. So glad that he is rocking with us. And like I mentioned before, this is going to be a very, very fun conversation that we have here. We have a special guest, somebody that you might have grown up with and didn't know you were growing up with. But I won't delay or try to simmer her thunder. I'm gonna bring her up to the stage right now. I have no one other than Niketa. Niketa's in the building. All right, how you doing, Niketa? How you feel?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on today.
So glad to have you. And listen, y'all, again, if you're new, come over to the YouTube side. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Like my colleague and friend said, OTTO, we're going to have a Q&A about the 30-minute, the halfway mark of this conversation. So you could come on in, share any questions that you may have, and ask questions not just about the tech side, but also maybe a little bit about the actress side, because we have an actress in our midst. And I'm not even going to try to say it. I'm going to just let you say it. Can you tell the audience the work you have done, and then we'll dive into your story even more?
Yeah, so I was a child actress. My mom used to tell this story of when I was like 5, and she figured out that that was something that I wanted to do in life, and she kind of dedicated her life to making that happen. Um, so yeah, Lion King was one of my. I was doing like commercials and things like that, but my first film was I played Chris Rock's little sister in CB4, that cult classic that was making fun of the rap industry, rap music industry. And then my very second film was The Lion King. And I
Wow.
didn't even know it was like, the next big Disney film because you're just like booking and going. But James Earl Jones was leaving his session when I was coming to my first session at Walt Disney Studios. And my mom was like, I think this is bigger than we think it is.
Wow.
When you're doing voiceover, you're just in a studio. I was with most of my scenes were with Jonathan Taylor Thomas, so that's all I knew. And then so I really didn't know until the premiere, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a big one.
Wow. So what did it feel like when you got to the premiere? You're on the red carpet. You're seeing all the fandom that's happening. You
Yeah.
hear that Elton John did the music. Like, what's going on in your back of your mind?
Well, when I first did my Lion King had a green carpet, so when I first did
Oh,
my green carpet, um, being interviewed by all the people, and you have your handler that like walks you down the carpet to all the different people, and then they're moving like my mom along behind me. Um, that was my first experience with that because CB4 was kind of an adult movie, so they kind of just like took us straight to the theater.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. But it wasn't really until it came back out in like 2011 and I was all the way grown, that I really started to realize kind of the impact because like so many years had passed. And then now in the 30 years, like I'm meeting grandkids, grandparents, moms, like I'm meeting a bunch of generation of fans. And it's been cool to meet them in person doing Comic Con signings at Comic Cons. Because before I've been getting like fan mail throughout the years, but it's kind of different to like see someone in person and hear like you were my childhood or things like that. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you come from a background like that in regards to being part of an iconic
Yeah.
animated feature film such as The Lion King, there really isn't uh what's the words I could say? There's not really a lot of space to grow from there sometimes, and it could feel as like, wow, this is it.
Yeah.
But you continued. And can you talk a little bit more about your career in acting and what else led after that?
Yeah, so I always knew my mom took me on this big trip in Europe when I was before going into high school. And so we went to the West End and we saw live theater like every day. And so once I got to my performing arts high school, I was like in love with theater because I started off dancing first. And so musical theater, that was like my jam. So I did that all through high school. And I knew I was like, okay, I want to do theater overseas and I want to do theater in New York. And so, even though my school wasn't in New York for undergrad, I did my junior year abroad. So, I went to England for a year and did theater my junior year in college. So, I was like, okay, that box is checked off. And so, grad school, I only applied to New York schools because I was like, New York is next. And so I ended up I got my master's in fine arts from the Actor Studio Drama School in New York. For those of you who watched that Bravo show with James Lipton, rest in peace. Um, Inside the Actor Studio, that was my grad school. And so I stayed there for a few years. My mom ended up getting sick, and that's what brought me back home eventually, because I
Mm,
probably still would have been out there. So I took care of her. She passed away in 2018. So I was very glad that
wow.
I came back because I had a long adult relationship with her. Um,
Yeah.
Coming from being gone from undergrad and grad because I did it right back to back. So then when I came back to LA, I actually started doing theater again, which is weird because LA is like Hollywood and you come here to do TV and film. But
Yeah.
I did a lot of theater when I came back to LA. And then slowly I started booking more TV and film. The last thing I did before transitioning to tech was HBO brought Perry Mason back, like a
Yeah.
reboot. So I did an episode on Perry Mason on HBO, and that was kind of the last thing I did before I clicked the course careers button.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely dive into that, and we do actually have some questions, y'all. So I do see some questions in the chat. Don't
Yeah.
worry, I did not forget you. In fact, I started to make sure that we could come back to that right when we go into the Q&A. And I have one question about acting, which we're going to go to a bit later in the conversation. But
Okay.
yeah, that first of all, heart my condolences to you. 2018 is not that long ago,
No.
and so definitely my heart condolences to you at this time. Um, and I just want to just make sure I said that before we move on. But thinking about it, right? You said you went through all that, and then you got to the point where you said, "I need to do something different. I want to get into tech." And so, what made you make that decision specifically? That almost not really Rubicon, because you always go back to acting, but that
Yeah.
time, that decision to say, you know what, I want to pursue this instead of acting at this time.
Well, it was so interesting because me and my husband, like so many other people who I have found who are people of color in tech, were watching a little podcast with Anthony O'Neill and Cyrus Hartman
That's the one.
about the tech industry and people of color need to like get into this space and the earning potential and Anthony O'Neill's always talking about financial freedom and so Cyrus kind of hit home with this is one of the avenues to do that. And me and my
Yeah.
husband looked at each other like, why haven't we even thought about tech? Like it didn't even I know when I think of tech, I think of like Steve Jobs, and I think of, white boys in their
Software development.
garage, yeah,
Yeah.
in their garage creating Facebook or something like that. So that was the first time. And then we started watching Tech as a New Block, and I was like, look at all these people of color in these like high positions in tech. And so that's when, and then the price point for course careers is just like amazing. So we literally took our
Slam dunk.
tax we took our tax check, and we both just invested in ourselves and took the course together. We watched your YouTube as well because you were parents and we were new parents. And so we were like, how are we going to do this with like a crying baby and going into toddlerhood? And so we would, study on breaks and study after bedtime routine and things like that. So our story wasn't a fast one like some other people. Oh, like I did it in 2 weeks. So it took me about a month and some change. But I am in tech now. So for those of you where it's not fast, that doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Yeah, and for those that are curious, I do have a couple links below for sure. Course careers. And it's not just one thing I love about course careers now. It's not just tech sales. Like there's software development now. There's
Yeah.
human resources. There's data analytics. So there's like not just
UX,
one
UI.
UX UI. There's not just one thing anymore. So you could definitely do it, and the price point, like you mentioned, is a great one. Plus, you could get discounts as well. So that is a little plug there. But that's what I wanted to just let people know. Like the resources are there, so definitely check the link below, especially if you're on YouTube.
Yeah.
But and also if you're on Nikita's channel, check her links as well. So I just wanted to kind of go back to that point because you mentioned it too. Being a parent and transitioning is not easy. I remember at that time we were expecting our sixth child when we were looking to transition. When I was looking to transition, and I used to watch two of our children while I was working full time from home in another industry. It was an inside sales, but it was another industry altogether. So I get it when you have to like you're watching the kids, you're changing diapers, you're listening to the chorus, or when you're driving, you're listening to the chorus, or when you're putting the baby down, you might be reading a book. So you're trying to take advantage of every moment that you can get. And for myself, it wasn't a quick one either. It was like a month and a half or a little bit longer than that for me finishing the course to landing the job and working in the role. Can you just dive a little bit deeper on about the challenges that you faced transitioning into tech in that period of time?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest ones, not so much during the course, but like getting my mindset ready for like, okay, I need to be thinking about putting her in school a little earlier than I had planned. Because I mean, I was researching some homeschooling stuff because of like the horrors that I see on TV. I have like a
Yeah.
circle time board, and my mom was an educator, my grandfather was a principal. So like I come
Wow.
from an education family. So that was my jam because with acting and then my husband working full time, I was kind of a stay at home mom, except for when I had acting jobs.
Yeah.
So I had to, that whole transition was really hard for me. And then, so I said, okay, I'm going to start her off halftime before I land a job. So at least she's used to like leaving. And then we had a pandemic child. So she's totally used to just it being
Hmm.
me and dad. And that's it. We like went to the library with our mask a few times, so she could just get out and socialize. But dropping her off that first day, I even went
Oh,
on my TikTok and I was like, y'all did not tell me the heartstrings that will be pulled in my body when she was screaming, crying. But she was a little trooper 3 days in, and then she just walked on in. But I was like driving all the way to work. So that like mom guilt of like,
tears streaming down your face.
yeah, career woman mom guilt was in full effect. I was crying for 2 days on the way to work. But we got past it. So that was like the biggest hurdle. Like it really like
Yeah.
tug at me hardcore. Like, oh, should I be doing this? Especially because it wasn't fully remote. So I was like, I picked this fully remote. I picked this place where I have to go in all the time, and that's not what I set out to do. Um, and then education wise, it was really fun because me and my husband were doing it together. So we would
Mm.
like tag team with the terminology, and every free moment we got, I was like, what's ICP, or
Yeah.
something. So that so that by the time we got to final, it wasn't like this brand new thing. And then for those of you who are almost near the final, like if you've been going along with the thing, it's really everything that you've just learned. Like,
Pretty
and
much.
I think in your head, like, especially if you've been out of school for a while, we pump it up in our head like, oh, final exam and it's proctored, and it's not time, so that's good. But then once I took it, I was like, oh, I know this stuff. I was totally like scared for no reason.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fear that I hear a lot from people that reach out and say, "Hey, I'm scared about this final exam." Well, for one, you could take it twice. That's a good thing,
Yeah.
right? And I
Hmm.
realized that after I took it, because I did have a little bit of that fear as well. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be transparent and say that fear came from, oh, because there's so much riding on this. I need to
Hmm.
pass this to show myself approved so that companies can look at me and all these different things. And so they put so much pressure on yourself that
Hmm.
it gets like overwhelming. But once you go through it, then you realize, oh, I could do this.
Yeah,
I could do
yeah.
this. What up, Joseph? What up, Josie? I got Josie on Instagram here, so I just want to shout her out. But yeah, you get that feeling like, oh, okay, this is not that bad. And so I think specifically when it comes to people that are creative,
Hmm.
specifically if they're people that are used to presenting and things of that nature, tech sales is great for that because you're using a lot of those same skills.
Hmm.
Little quick story. I remember when I was doing inside sales at another industry,
Yeah.
and I was basically because we're dealing with a lot of B2C, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna have a Jamaican accent today, and I just did that for the whole day. My coworkers were laughing, but I was just being as authentic as I could, and I got a couple of people that were like, yeah, let's go for it. But yeah, it was a good, it's a great time to kind of explore the different things that you can do with your voice and stuff like that. And so nowadays, I want to ask you, how was that transition from, okay, I took the test, I passed the exam, and
Yeah.
now I'm looking for work because it wasn't easy to find work. Um,
No.
and so I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I always say that like I'm a good student. So I was doing all the things that course careers were saying. So I would literally, so I made my little, my list of 10, looked at the vertical, looked at the industry. So I wanted to at first I started off saying I wanted to kind of stay in the same kind of industry. So I was only looking at like MarTech and maybe some AI stuff that's still in entertainment. And then I would apply on LinkedIn or Ada or one of those or Earn Better or something like that. And then I would go to the page on LinkedIn and look at people. And then of course, I downloaded Apollo, like Course Careers has us do. So you get their
Yeah.
information and Sales Navigator. I hit that. I didn't hit that free LinkedIn Premiere until I graduated, so I can use it for searching for a job. So I would hit
Yeah.
up like VP of Sales, I would hit up account executives, I would hit up SDRs to see what the company culture really is like. Have
Yeah.
like a little coffee chat with them, and then I used Vidyard to make a kind of mini tell me about yourself video that I would send to all those people I hit up in the people section of the. So I was prospecting, I was doing the job to get the job.
Yes.
Um, and I was so surprised that it was taking so freaking long.
Hold on. Let's go backtrack because some people might not even realize what you just said. Prospecting, doing the job to get the job. I don't want to. I know what it means, but I don't want to assume that everybody does. Can you talk about it for those that don't know?
Right. So in the role, you have you might have your list of prospects, but then you also do your research to prospect. In my particular job, my research is like going on the pages of Google and checking out to see if they hit all the boxes, or going on to a Yelp and checking the reviews and things like that. So that I was doing the same thing with the jobs that I was looking for. I was prospecting my buyer personas, and the value prop was me. So I was presenting my value prop to their company, as someone that they need to go ahead and do. And then in the emails, and if I spoke, I would close it. I would say, "Hey, I'm available Fridays and da 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 at this time. I would love to set up an interview
Come
with
on
you.
now.
Does Tuesday work good for you?"
That's right. That's right.
So between videos and closing every conversation, that's when I started to see a pickup of interviews. And when you get those kind of oh, we went in a different direction, I would still reach out because sometimes they're not even getting to see your thing. It's like if you don't have enough
Mm.
SEO, then the AI just puts it in this pile. So if it's somewhere you really like, I would ignore those, like, we're going in a different direction if you haven't even met with them. And I would still try to hit up VP or hiring or recruiter and say, hey, I got this email. Just wanted to know if you actually had a chance to look at my my resume. I'd love to like clear up anything for you. Does Tuesday work? So
Put them in the
just always
fire.
always close. And then LinkedIn would have these conferences, so I would hop on the conferences and hit up the people who are like in hiring titles. Say, hey, I'm on this conference with you. I just took your workshop on the conference. I'd love to set up a meeting with you. And they were just like, wow, like that's so out of the
Mm-mm-mm.
box. Like, I want to have an interview with you just because of the way you reached out to me. So
Come on.
like skipping applications and stuff. So just think of different ways in all this noise to stand out from the noise.
Beautiful. Think of different ways to stand out from all this noise, because there's definitely a lot of noise
A
in the
lot of
building.
chatter.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of chatter. I want to go to the comment section real quickly. OTTO says on Niketa's YouTube channel, she has a few videos on how they approach taking the final exam. That's right. So
Mhm.
definitely check out Niketa's channel if you are there. I put in the link in the description below. I put the all her socials there. So go ahead and check it out, especially if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And listen,
Yeah, it's
y'all.
Niketa Kalam everywhere. YouTube,
Yeah,
it's the Harris Tech Pivot.
the Harris Tech Pivot, both
Mm.
y'all together. That's awesome. And we're going to talk about a couple more. We have a couple more questions for her, but don't forget to put your questions in the chat. I didn't forget, y'all. We're going to definitely have Q&A at the half-hour mark, so make sure that you are there for that as well. But let me ask you this, because I did see that OTTO mentioned it earlier. You're part of the Key Club. Shout out to the Key Club
Yeah,
there. How important was community? Because you mentioned your husband, of course, but how
right.
important was community in getting you to where you want to go?
Well, I've always been a kind of you need to do life with people.
Mm,
That's kind of been my mantra. One of my professors in undergrad, his mantra was uplift one higher than yourself. And that
mm,
ever since college, that's like been my mantra. So I'm always looking for doing community with people. Even when I was pregnant, I jumped in a bunch of Facebook groups. Like, I just need like-minded people so that I don't get in my head, so that I can grab some tips from other people. So that Key Club was great for that. We did cold calling. And so I was doing this leading up to booking a job. So when I had to do cold call in like second round interview, even though I wasn't in the position, I mean, I was doing like Glen Coco, but I
yeah.
was very prepared to do those type of things, even though I hadn't landed my full-time job yet. So being in
Mm,
places like Key Club, being in the Discord, in Course Careers, because they got job opportunities all the time posting up in there. It's just good to have a network of people. And somebody said this too: once you land your job, don't disappear. Keep those networks up. Because
yeah.
I had hopped out a Key Club after not being on for a while, and I was like all in my head, and it was like a rough month because there was so many transitions at work. And then just being on there, I was like, oh yeah, I am dope. Like, I do know what I'm doing. And that kind
Yeah.
of like re-energized me going back to work, when you're like, I suck at this, like, why am I not booking,
Mm,
like, you know. So it's good for multiple different reasons to be in doing community with people.
awesome. And let me ask you this, because I realized something. When you, oh yeah, and OTCO says Operation Tech Takeover says she is so helpful and encouraging. That's so good.
Thank
That's so
you.
good. Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that, because I think it's always encouraging to see somebody that has, like, they're one or two steps in front of you. They
Right.
went through the course, they
Hmm.
graduated the course, they went through the interview process, and they landed a job. So to have that somebody come back and be a part of the process is so encouraging.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
I
that is,
also I also want to shout out like Andre, who's currently doing um I think the kind of in-person part of Course Careers.
oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I did one
Cut
of
the
his
tech.
coaching. Yeah, cut the tech. I was doing one of his sessions when I was still at the beginning stages of interviewing. And he broke down my why to the point where I was like almost in tears. So it went from like this top surface answer to like this three-dimensional deep thing. And then I also want to
Mhm.
shout out Rework.
All right.
Shelton at WeWork.
Nelson Banks.
Yeah, he like took some of my strengths and weaknesses and like wrapped it up in a little tell me about yourself package and threw it back at me. And I was like, wow. I was like, that sounds better than what I've ever said about myself. And it was literally the interview after Shelton did that. That's the company that I'm at. So it's like all
Wow.
these little mini pieces that turned me into the best presentation of myself, a representation of myself, that ended up landing me my job. So if I had done all that stuff earlier, it probably wouldn't have taken as long. Um, and then it was like a hiring, like September, and then you have January, where it's just like there's just a lot of hiring going on
Yeah.
during those times. So
Yeah.
those kind of resources really prepped me and helped me land the job.
Awesome. And y'all prepare for September surge is coming, y'all, if you're looking
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
But let me just stop here because the reason why I want to ask that question, because there are people that are struggling right now, and maybe it's because you are moving in a silo, and maybe because you're not in community. You need to reach out to talk to people so that you could get that encouragement. Like you said, you're like, oh man, I suck at this, and then all of a sudden you talk to somebody, and now you're killing it because you just
Mm-hmm.
need that human affirmation to say, no, you got this. Or maybe there is something that is a disconnect. You could have somebody speak to it, or you could understand your why by going to Andre, who is
Mm-hmm.
a tech coach at Course Careers. So there's so many different ways that you could find your tribe, find your community, and go ahead and do that. What up? We got Tech Job Tina in the building, popping in to say hello.
Hey, I watch her stuff too.
Yeah. She's always keeping you up to date on stuff. So that's definitely locking with her, y'all. Community is so important, Jermaine says. And I think that's what's lacking. So right, Jermaine. I think that's lacking for a lot of people is a lack of community. And that's why Course Careers, even though it's a low price as well, that's what makes Course Careers to me so much more valuable is that
Yeah.
community that you find there. But going back to your story, and listen, y'all, we're going to have a Q&A just now. Y'all going to be able to ask your questions. I already have one question from Jaime Ruiz that we're going to target later, which is what are some skills learned in voice acting to help you in tech sales? We're going to talk about that in a few, but I want to just
Oh, he's
continue
in
with
Key Club.
He's in Key Club too. Awesome. Awesome. You see the Key Club family turned out. That's awesome. And listen, y'all go ahead and share this with others as well. If you know anybody who is looking to get in, they want to find out what may be the issue that they're looking to, get them to the next level, talk to them, bring them to this conversation, share this with them as well. But let's talk about it. The day in the life, right? You got the job. Was it
Mhm.
a long interview process? And then after you got the job, what's the day in the life look like for you now?
So the first round was with the recruiter, which is pretty much just tell me about yourself, why tech sales, why our company. And then, so I passed that, went to the second round, which was with the SDR manager and the VP of sales.
Nice. Yeah.
So that was a cold call, a mock cold call, and then some more behavioral questions, like tell me about a time when. Um, so a lot of those, and then the cold call. And because I was in Key Club, I was in all these things. So I killed my mock cold call. Like I had the little hook in the beginning. I like did a little, um, you know, uh, getting them to talk about some open-ended questions. So they said, oh, that was one of the best mock interviews we've had this round of hiring. Um, so I was like very proud of myself with that one. And then the third round was with sales enablement and RevOps, which was like random panels. And that was all behavioral questions, like an hour of behavioral questions.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I literally had, because they're all on Zoom and stuff. I had, speaking of acting, I had like my script, so I thought of like every behavioral question I could think of and a full out
Yeah.
answer. And so I was in the beginning, I was reading that junk like a script. But by the time I got to the one that I'm actually at now, I was barely looking at my notes. But in the beginning, I was even reading "Tell Me About Yourself," but it didn't sound like I was reading because I'm an actress.
Yeah.
But I had all my notes, so I wouldn't scramble and go off script and ramble and try to stay concise with those star method or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you do it, and then you kind of know it. You kind of know what to do after that.
Yeah, and lastly, before we go into Q&A, how has it been for you in the role now? Like you mentioned before, there are moments you're like, man, I'm terrible at this. There's ups and
Yeah.
downs. So
Mhm.
how is it for you now being in the role?
Yeah, so being in the role, onboarding, I'm really, because like I said, I'm a student. So I'm always looking at onboarding when I'm looking at a company, like how long is it? How in depth is it? Is it just the product or is it the product and the tech stack that you're using? Because that's the part that you need to do the job. Um, so the onboarding was really well. I felt really secure about the ICP and but the vertical was brand new to me. So learning, so it's way more casual than some of the things I did on Glen Coco, which was like talking to an exec in their office. So it's a little more elevated, kind of straight to the point talking, whereas this one's
Yeah.
like, hey, how's it going, like I saw that you did it. So that was a learning curve to get more casual because I was like, hello, and
Yeah.
so learning verticals, learning territories. So like New York is like get to the point, California is like laid back, you could talk a little more, Texas is like, hey sweetie, so they're like compliments and things like that. So those were kind of learning curves, learning the different territory characters, if you will,
Yes.
and how you speak to different territories. Like New York, you're not going to do a bunch of compliments. You're going to be like, this is what it is. Do you want it or not?
Yeah.
So that was like a learning curve. And then once I got off script, that's when it really started picking up, because now I'm like trusting my instincts. I'm objective handling way better because I'm not like trying to look for it in the script. Um, and yeah, so my first quota week I did 155% over, and then it was like
Ooh.
100, then it was like 109 over, and then it was like once you get 19, you're in the money. So you start making commission after 19 meetings, but
Oh, okay.
27, but we have to make 27 meetings for quota. So so it went from 9 to 18 to 27. So 9 to 18 wasn't a big jump, but 18 to 27 just seemed like a huge jump.
Yeah.
So I think I got like 23 my first like week, my first month out of ramp.
Yeah.
And so that's another question to ask when you're, what is the quota attainment of your current SDRs? So you can
Yeah.
see, like, to me, I feel like most should be making it, and then you have your few rock stars. But if it's only like a few people making the quota attainment, then it's like, is that a
Mm.
realistic number that the company has? And are you going to even be making commission? So that's definitely something I would ask, if I'm moving into like a higher position and interviewing somewhere else. Um, so we had a month of transition with a new tech stack that kind of slowed things down. And then I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks
Oh
in
no.
June. So coming back from being away, I feel like I'm back to how I was in the beginning, like rocking it. Like my hold rate is way better. And so I think it was just honestly that break. It's a sad break, but nevertheless, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm back to like how I was in the beginning, rocking it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I think that that is, man, it's a lot of good nuggets in there. I love what you said about the vertical because understanding who you're speaking to is so important. You're not going to speak to somebody in technology, somebody in IT, the same you're going to speak to somebody in sales, let alone regions, because there's also different personalities. And
Them regions have their
me
own
being a native New
personality.
Yorker, I should know, right? But yeah, no, it's definitely a lot. And I'm gonna go to the comment section, y'all, because you got a lot of love here in the comment section. Justin says, dope combo, extremely helpful gems, extremely helpful. Oh, we got Tech Bag Trey in the building. I'm not gonna say anything unless you say it, brother. But so glad to see your face. He's like, I got the beard action. I'm trying. He's something like, I'm trying. He said, hey, what up, Nikita? And then
What
we
up,
got Day.
Tech?
Yeah, Tech Back Trey. And then we got,
See, that's what I'm talking about. The community in Course
yeah,
Careers is so helpful. I literally hopped on the phone with Tech Back Trade before I accepted my offer to be like, does this sound right? Should I be asking for more? Da, 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 da. And
yeah,
so like him and Paris, I asked her
yeah.
about the like stock thing that they were offering us. So like you really do have a community of people who are very, very helpful and very, very open and transparent and giving. So
Yeah.
that's another reason why I liked Course Careers too.
Absolutely. And if y'all liking this conversation, like Dave and Justin are, go ahead, like, and go ahead, continue to comment and let your questions be known, because we're about to go into Q&A section, but I want to hear from y'all as well. I do got Dave here, so this is facts. I love it in regards to the day in the life. Operation Tech Takeover says, Tech my style. Oh, gee, what's up, family? And then so unfortunately, I can't see your name, LinkedIn user, but it said, love this story. Yes, it's a great story indeed. And listen, y'all, I think we're getting love from everybody. I'm not gonna cut her off today, but if you can go ahead after the show and go to youtube.com/at Techniche Tips. Go ahead, subscribe. There's more. There's more coming
Oh, I
in
did
store.
want to answer one of the questions. They said, how was voiceover helpful for the job?
Yep, that's the question I was
So
gonna ask.
when I'm breaking down my script and acting, I was breaking it down the same way, like different beats, like
Hmm,
putting pauses in so that I don't just feature drop and like not,
yes,
that active listening. You have to keep your active listening as opposed to just waiting for your turn to speak. So that's stuff we do in acting that I
yeah.
implemented. And then just the cadence of my tone, like I brought it down a little bit, slowed it down a little bit, just because
Hmm.
I know if I'm nervous or something, I tend to like go fast, or if I'm
Yeah.
excited. So I had to like intentionally bring the pace down a little bit. Operative words is something in voiceover that you do. Like, what are the key value props that you really want to hit? Um,
Mm.
so all of that, I actually, yeah, I did take into consideration when I was really kind of heavy relying on the script. Now it's a little different. Now I like know my character and I'm on stage and I don't need my script anymore. We got the audience there. So it's performance time. But even with that, sometimes you might be in a groove and now it's like not working. So then you got to go back and tweak some stuff. Um, summertime's coming, so that's going to be a different kind of talk track. um, yeah, Christmas. I haven't had a Christmas yet, but apparently that's kind of really challenging because people are going on vacation. So that's
Yeah.
going to be it's new obstacles. So you just have to have that like improv play
Hmm.
atmosphere with tech sales because it's ever changing and ever evolving. So you can't
Yeah.
get too comfortable with one way because you might have to change it up and be okay with that.
Yeah, I totally agree that first of all, you dropped a lot of nuggets right there in that one thing, but I totally agree in regards to empathy, flexibility, pausing is so important. You may say
Yeah.
something that really is allowing them to resonate with them, and you ask them an open question like, "Hey, do you have a technology that's providing results X, Y, and Z in your company now?" And let that pause echo, and let them
Yeah,
say,
don't
"Hmm,
be
I don't
afraid of the
know."
silence.
Don't be afraid of silence. It really depends, going back to the vertical situation, because I used to do that a lot more in my previous SDR role when I was
Yeah.
in med tech. In this vertical where we're talking to more VPs and AVPs and all the different things where they are a little bit more, you have to kind of balance that. You have to kind
Mhm.
of say, okay, this is a moment to pause. This is a moment that I need to kind of be on the offense and just kind of go at it. So,
Mhm.
definitely, and be defensive too. There's a give and go there, but yeah, it's so good. And he said, "Ah, it's key." That's the LinkedIn user said, "Ah, it's me, key." I gotta
And then
see it.
and then also in the
Yeah.
SDR world, you're just selling the meeting.
Yes.
Like I in the beginning I had to really like not feature drop
Yeah.
because I was like, I'm not the AE, like I'm not
Yeah.
closing this deal. Otherwise, they don't need the meeting if I'm like telling them everything. So it's
Yeah.
like stringing them along with a little like almost like a drip campaign,
Yeah.
like a little bit on the string leading to the meeting, not leading to like the close.
Yeah. And then you're gonna get yourself in a lot of trouble because now you're talking and they're asking you questions. You're like, ah, and you
That's
start
a
bobbing in
great
their mouth.
question for the AE.
Exactly. I'm so glad you asked that. We could definitely answer that when we have our conversation next week. Oh, Wednesday or Thursday, which one works best for you, in the morning or afternoon?
Mhm.
And you lead them down the path
Mhm.
of the meeting. Absolutely. We got Asha in the building as well. Happy Eight Course Careers family. Asha is in the
Hey.
building. Yes, a lot of family coming through today for you. That's awesome. What up? What up? We got Sebastian and a few others on IG as well. So thank you, IG people, for showing up as well. But listen, y'all, this is the time for you to ask questions while Nikita is here. So definitely ask your questions as we have her right here and present. Um, Now, let me ask you this, since
Hmm.
they're thinking about their questions. This is my pause for them. Uh, what do you find to be the most challenging thing about the SDR role?
Um, I think you did all this work and you either got quota or you got halfway to quota, but you're still in the money, so you got a commission check, and then the very next day you start back at zero.
Yeah. Starting back at one. Yeah. Or
Started
zero.
back at
Literally zero.
one. You
Literally
got to do
zero.
it all again. So a tip for that is when you get near the end, like the last week, just start trying to fill up that next month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're almost to quota, but you're like in the money, you're getting a commission check. I mean, you could still try to get it something, but I would try to fill up the next month because when you
Hmm.
start the month off already with some meetings, you're not doing scrounging at the end. And
Yeah.
scrounging at the end is not a good feeling.
No.
So that's a tip that my manager said that I actually like, and that's why my this month is so great because I started day one. I already had like 6 meetings coming up.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so it puts you a little bit ahead. So those last 2 days, wherever you're at, just start booking for the next month.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that, especially if you hit quota already. You want to make sure you have a nice padding going into it because
Hmm.
going back to what you said, Christmas is a challenging time. So
Yeah, I'm
the
nervous about Christmas.
yeah, no, don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. But I think there's a way that we could talk about that and strategize where you might have a scarcity tactic used where it's like, hey, listen, I know the holidays coming up. A lot of people are rushing out. In fact, we only have a little bit of time left. Let's get something done. Let's have a time available in the beginning of December to free you up for the next. So it's like giving
Yeah,
them kind of consideration, like, oh yeah, I do have a lot going on. Let's try to do the first 2 weeks of December, sometime in there. So that way, now you're looking at it as okay. I pretty much got all my meetings done in the beginning of the month.
yeah.
I might even be able to take off myself, or
Right, because
yeah,
that's the thing. It's like you have Christmas off, and then I think you might have like the day after or the day before. But I was
yeah,
like, I have a toddler. I
yeah,
cannot just take off Christmas Day.
yeah, yeah,
So I'm like, I need to like fill up the beginning so that I can at least take a few days off and not be worried that I'm gonna be put on PIP when I get back or something.
yeah,
Something crazy like
yeah,
perform way below because I took a vacation.
yeah. And
So
same
like
thing is
those
true
are
about
the things
November
that,
too.
yeah. Oh yeah, Thanksgiving.
Is a Thanksgiving, yeah. So you're either doing right before,
Yeah.
as much as you can, and it's just
Hmm.
like that. It's a weird little window in the time, and it could be one of the best months depending on how you do it,
Yeah.
but it also is a tricky time. But
Yeah.
yeah, so listen, y'all. If you have any questions, definitely put it in the
Somebody
chat.
wrote, um, I next year, I graduate next year with my bachelor's in cybersecurity. Is it possible to find a job before I graduate?
Great question. I mean, cybersecurity. I'm not too familiar with that world. I probably would have to go to somebody else, maybe Tech Coach Ralph, who's in the chat as well. Maybe he could chime in there. I know he's in QA more or less, but I would say, September surge is coming. I would say there's other opportunities that are coming. And the
I
question
would I
was,
would apply.
yeah, I would apply now too. So that was the point I was getting to is like, don't wait to graduate, apply
Right.
now, right? You don't want to be
Just
late.
because it's a whole process. It's not like
Yeah,
you're gonna apply and that's it. Like you're gonna have to apply, get
yeah.
interviews, have interview. Like it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't wait. In fact, anybody that's in course careers, I started saying this after the fact. Like, listen, if you did the course and you're about to do the final exam, I would start applying then and putting that sort of that work into practice now. So that
Hmm.
way, by the time you go through the process or whatever, you might get the finish the exam, but you got that muscle working with
Yeah.
interviews and things of that nature. Because interviews is a skill as well. You need to practice that.
Yeah.
So
And if you're
personally,
if you're just graduating, definitely get into like a Glen Coco or something, just so
yeah.
that it's not just like textbook knowledge, but actual practical knowledge. So when they're coming at you with some of these things, you're actually going from something you've done, and not just what you've studied.
Yeah, and this was from Tech Back Trey, which is true. Try IT help desk before you graduate, then you will have experience for cyber once you do graduate. A lot of people that get into cyber, they start off with IT help desk. In fact, Tech Coach Ralph also says apply do some practical projects. Hopefully, you've done some internships. EOD have something valuable to show. At the end of the day, has something valuable to show to get you to that level. And so that's really important there. But yeah, going back to Tech Back Trey's point, and then we'll go to Asha's question. A lot of people, they start off with the IT help desk before they get into cybersecurity. So if that is a role that you're looking into specifically get in, try that first, and then as before you graduate, you already have some experience. That company looks at you and said, "Oh, okay, he at least has some IT help desk experience. Plus, he has a degree. Let's give him a shot, him or her, right?" So definitely look into that. Asha, this go ahead. You want to say something about this before we move on?
Was in the whole job searching prospect, don't be afraid to reach out to like the account executives or the people in your current job and kind of
Yeah,
start an organic relationship, because there's loads of programs where they get actually paid to refer. Um,
yeah.
so if you start building those relationships, there you might have a handful of referrals already when you
Hmm.
get ready to start applying, and then it's kind of a passing the application process, because they're vetting you, and they're because I've referred some people and I know, like, I'm like, you need to look at this application. And a few SDRs have had their friends like come into the role. So
Yeah, definitely network. Don't wait to you are looking for a job to start networking. Start that process now, for sure. Start it for now for sure. Oh, I got that question from Asha here, and she
okay.
mentioned you both are creative. From one creative to another, how do you research or find the right fit when it comes to company you target as an SDR to feel alive and fulfilled? I'll let you talk about that first, and then I'll chime in afterwards.
Well, like I said, when I first started, I was very, very niche. I was only looking at like MarTech because I've done some marketing, and you kind of have to market yourself anyway as a creative. So you just know that knowledge, and that social platforms and campaigns and stuff like that. You kind of know that language. So at first, I was only looking at MarTech, and I was looking at like AI companies that are in entertainment, or like I was looking at a music company. That had a tech stack. So their buyer persona was like producers and directors. So I was like, okay, I know that buyer persona. But then after it started taking a while, I started just going for like mission statements that I could jump on board with, products that I liked. And so that kind of broadened my web a little bit, because I still do artistry stuff outside. So also don't make to SDR your whole life, still have your life outside of work. So there's loads of artists at my job. Actually, one girl who just started, she just got out of onboarding. She was on the phone at lunch, like trying to hire a musician for a shoot she was doing during the weekend. So, and one of the guys, he just did his Indiegogo campaign for a film that he's shooting, and he's using this, SDR tech bag to like to fund that. So yeah, definitely do not give up on your dreams. Just use this as a way to fulfill your dreams and to pay for your dreams.
Yeah, I was gonna just say that, like, in regards to research, I would recommend Glassdoor, RepView, and also reaching out to those that are working in the company, because you may get a sense of it from the outside and say, "Oh, this may be a great place I want to work at," but you don't really know until you ask. And so, I would
Mhm.
recommend asking people, SDRs that work there, say, "Hey, how's it going? How's hitting commission?" They'll let you know.
Yeah, they will.
They'll be like, "Listen, y'all, I'm actually trying to leave right now. So if you have a job, let me know." So you get those different kind of conversations
Yeah.
when you get a chance to do it. But I know what you're saying. Leaning on being a creative, you want to kind of utilize your skills. Like Nikita said very eloquently, I wouldn't put all my eggs in a basket for my job to be my creative expression. But you could find ways to be creative within your job. Let's say, for example, you're a creative writer by just naturally a creative writer. You could use that skill within your cold emailing. Or let's say that you happen to be a person that's really quick on their feet when they have a conversation, then cold calling, you could craft scripts around that and practice those scripts. So you could take those same skills and really apply it to any job. What I would say though is look at your transferable skills. Look at the things that you've done in the past where you've been successful. And whether it's like for myself, I used to work in the med tech field. Well, actually, it was a med tech field prior to getting into tech sales, and so I leaned on the knowledge that I gained from that, and then now I'm in something that I'm interested in, which is in AI, and it's leveraging past experience working within the contact center. So you can lean on your past to bring you closer to where you want to go in the future, if that makes sense. Hopefully that was explained well, but I think that that's a great way of looking at, okay, what kind of job or business that I want to be connected with.
And
Um,
even when, for those out there who might be like a stay-at-home mom or something like that, I remember Mrs. Werther. I remember her talking about she definitely amped that up in her interviews about time management and
yeah,
being super organized and planning for multiple people. So that transferable skills is really a gem for whatever your background is. Even if you think, oh, I don't have something, you do.
absolutely. Love the use of air quotes there because it's so true. It's so true. I got Jacob James on the Jones, excuse me, Jacob Jones here. He said, "Great job." And he gave a thumbs up as well. Jacob Jones, thank you so much for supporting the channel. We got Morgan in the building as
We
well
went to
saying,
high school together.
"Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome." She said, "Good question and responses. It's so important to feel alive in what you do." It really is. And so that's why I started to talk to people. And I actually created a little quiz here where it kind of based your personality and would say, what would be a good place for you to do? So, for example, I took it twice and I got human resources for one and I got tech sales for the other. So it kind of made me feel like, okay, I'm actually where I should be.
Mhm.
But I had somebody else that took it and they got account executive, and somebody else took it and got human resources and data analytics. So if you're interested in that quiz, I definitely have a link to it in the chat. Check it out.
Yeah, I want
If
to
you
take
like, yeah, just
it.
like I do it for fun sometimes. I'm like, just like just a short question, not a lot, but it gives you an idea based off your personality where you might have the most fulfilling career in tech. So that's
Oh,
I
and I
yeah,
have to say this before, because it will leave my head mom brain, because I feel this way kind of across the board. You are the CEO of
yep,
yourname.com.
yep.
So sometimes this happens with younger people, but you're just, and then I think my friend Tamia said this in Key Club. You are dating these companies. You're not married.
Mm,
So if it's toxic, if it's whatever, start quite quitting and looking for a place because it doesn't need to affect your livelihood and your well-being. I feel the same
mm.
way if a doctor is you're not feeling your
Yeah,
doctor,
yeah.
fire your doctor and get a new doctor. You don't have to stay with like I feel that way across the board. Like you are at the top of your name.com and everybody else are in all these different departments that make up your well-being. And so you
Mm.
absolutely have the power to fire and hire people in your empire.
Yeah, Asha Inc. How does that sound, Asha? Asha Inc. Or
I think.
Joseph Incorporated. Yes. How does it sound?
Yes.
Uh, so good, y'all. We're about to be wrapping it up very soon. So if you don't have any questions, that's fine. I'm not gonna keep Nikita here all day long. It's early where she at. She got stuff to do. But listen, y'all. If you have any other questions, now is the time to put it in the chat. Don't say I didn't give you a warning. We have a couple more minutes left. Now's the time to put it in the chat. But yeah, so my question to you is now that you still got some time in, you still got some ways to go, but now that you're kind of looking into the landscape of what is out there in regards to tech, where do you see yourself going next? Is it an
Yeah.
AE role? Is it where do you see yourself going?
Well, I do like sales because the commission earning potential is humongous.
Yeah.
But I also was kind of liking sales enablement because I have a strong teacher background.
Mm.
And the sales enablement team was really nice at my job. And even when we have to do stuff where like mind tickles and stuff, I like automatically did like a PowerPoint presentation. Like it's just like I told you, my grandfather was a principal. Like
Yeah.
I got education all in my veins. So like sales enablement, but then some people were also talking about like something in between like customer success sales engineer, where you're
Mm.
still the presenting thing. Anything that's presenting, I would be interested in learning more about what that entails. But for right now, SDR, BDR, um, and if I would go just the regular trajectory, AE. But I am looking in other verticals within the tech space.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty about being an SDR. First of all, it's pretty much the hardest job, one of the hardest jobs in the tech industry. But it's teaching you an invaluable skill that you can apply to anything, which is PG, pipeline generation. Right?
Hmm.
How do you do that? That's something that you could apply, and that's one thing I actually had a conversation with this week. Um, where we had a guest come on to speak to us. Phenomenal person. If I said his name, you would know him. But he gave some words of wisdom, and it talks about in talking about the SDR role, not necessarily being just this entry level role or this
Hmm.
stepping stool, but that you're developing invaluable skills that you could apply to if you want to be an entrepreneur to in your business, or if you want to whatever you want to do, the skills that you develop here in SDR world, BDR world, LDR world, XDR world, whatever it is, can really be invaluable to you as you move forward in your life. And so Justin says you would be a great coach. I would hire you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, outside of that space, I mean, Cyrus always talks about revenue streams and,
Yeah.
utilizing your talents to have those revenue streams on the side. So, I mean, people do like hit my DMs up like, how do I do this? How do I do that? So I am thinking in that realm of things too. I was just talking to Key about that yesterday, actually, about like, oh, well, people are always asking me this, so why don't I just create that little side thing as well? But one thing I
Hey.
want to say about course career students is bef- before you graduate, or if you already know, that's great, but play around with Outreach, play around with Salesforce, play around with HubSpot. Just like Trent tells you, because once you get into the role, they might not be onboarding you with the tech stack. So
Mm,
you don't want to kind of be lost. I feel like a lot of our SDRs, we were kind of like struggling and teaching each other to kind of onboard with the actual day in day out of moving this to a sequence and moving it from Salesforce to Outreach or moving it from Salesforce to Groove
mm,
and then clicking on Chili Piper to book the meeting. And so get familiar with those. I know LinkedIn always has these random workshops and stuff. Just take
yeah.
Google has some too. Just take all the free workshops about the tech stack, so it's not like brand spanking new to you.
Oh, nice, nice. Listen, this is a question that's up to you if you want to answer it. But which school did you and Morgan go to? He's like, listen, I might know y'all. Where
The
you
H,
from?
the M, the I is Hammy.
It's
Hamilton
Hammy.
High School Academy of Music.
He's the Hamilton High School Academy of Music. Jacob Jones says, I'm curious about the high school. He's like, I might know y'all. We might have gone to the same high school. Oh man, no, this is so dope. Thank you so much, y'all, for tuning into the show, and most importantly, thank you, Nikita, for coming along and
No
sharing your
problem.
story. No, this is great.
Thanks
And
for
listen, y'all,
having me.
and she said it too. Like, hit up in her DMs, right? She said if y'all want to
People
find.
ask me questions all the time.
So like, don't be afraid. Go ahead and hit her up in her DMs. Let her know. Show your appreciation, your report, and yes, I'm really just happy to be here. I'm like a fly on the wall. It feels like so. No, no, thank you so much. And as Tech Coach Ralph said, all of her socials are there on YouTube. Go ahead and follow her right there as well. OTTO says awesome show. But thank you so much, y'all. And again,
Yay.
just a reminder, there is that quiz. Take that tech career quiz. It's based more on your personality to see, okay, where, just out of curiosity, where do I kind of probably have a better, like, natural gifting toward? And then it'll let you know. But yes, Nikita, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And family, like always, like I always say, until next time, I hope to see you on the other side. Take care, family.